Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining today. This is your host Nino, inviting you to another adventure with a Pocket 386 modern-made vintage computer with 8 MB of RAM, an AMD 386 processor, and all the pleasantries of a late 80s, early 90s machine. For today's experiment, we have to adjust one parameter within the machine's BIOS so that it properly boots this hard disk not as a 2 GB disk, but as a disk with a size of slightly above 50 MB. And to that end, we're going here to the standard CMOS setup, and with page, was it page up and down? Am I pressing the right thing? No. Okay, here. And here we need to go to type 24 for the disk. All right, notice size 53 megabytes, 925 cylinders, 7 heads, 17 sectors, no further blah blah concerning the other modes. That's the highest type that offers this luxury and the biggest size. And now we are ready to save settings and exit and let a dinosaur rear its head and roar as it, on new machines, surely has not done for decades. The talk is of Xenix, ladies and gentlemen, Xenix 2.3.1, which I thus managed to get running from my hard disk, installed in a virtual fashion. And so here we are having, as this girl in Jurassic Park mentioned, I know this, it's a Unix system. Entering as root without password, here we are. Isn't there something cuter? Can't we make it more visual? Good that you say, for we are having the visual shell. Oh, the visual shell. Oh gosh, is this ugly. So essentially this is apparently working with the tabulator, getting you around in whatever you can be doing, and the arrow keys navigating across the files and allowing you to do things somewhere. And I have installed actually... Oh, I don't want to copy it. No, please. Anyway, this thing is terrible. Control C apparently gets me out of whatever I'm about to do. And the first thing I'll do now is quit it, because this is mega frustrating. But in general, we are having... there's no top. Is there a who? We are having here basically a late 80s machine with a late 80s operating system. And I even put XLISP on it, so that I now have a Lisp interpreter. But admittedly, this is something I have compiled a long time ago, so I will not be much getting into it here. But in today's video, I'm going to be showing you, and I mean in detail, how to install this, whereby we shall be making use of Qemu as well as 86box run on a Linux machine in order to bring you, Marty, back to the future or back to the past. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy today's episode. And now to Linux, where the virtual games are truly being played. And so, ladies and gentlemen, let us go through the installation of Xenix, whereby this very likely is going to be very messy, because Xenix is extremely capricious and close to suicidal on any emulator. It tries to crash its disk, it tries not to install, it tries not to work. Trust me, we will see this. Let me show you, however, how we might attempt the whole adventure. So I'm using here the 86box emulator, which is known as being particularly precise. Regarding its settings, I have chosen a i3-86SX system with an A-crosser type of machine, and you see here the other values. Also, I should mention the speed is 40 megahertz. Memory is 8 megabyte, no time synchronization. Floppy and CD-ROM drives I picked here. The CD-ROM drive is just for fun, but the floppy drives 3.5 inch and 5.25 inch, in each case the large variants. As to the hard disks, it's one, and that's actually interesting. I set it as a new disk, so when it is created it is just full of zeros and nothing else. It's not partitioned in any way. And this disk has 925 cylinders, 7 heads, and 17 sectors. This, in many BIOSes, including that one of the Pocket 386, is type 24. It is a default type which has no further specifications, nothing about landing zone, and so on and so forth. In other words, that seems to be a pretty stable disk with a size of 53 megabyte, which is like middle 8 or to late 80s. And is the largest known disk type that has no funky parameters. So that is a good choice. Remember, of course, to set the BIOS of your Pocket 386 to type 24 for the hard disk before trying to get into Xenix. Xenix itself needs, of course, also installation media. And I tell you, I am using here an old set I was having. I don't know where exactly you may obtain it nowadays. I am having a set of Xenix 2.3.1, not the more popular 2.3.4, whose development set somehow I did not manage to install. Like it was whining that it's a different development set and so on and so forth. I managed to have a 2.3.4 nude machine, which was like having everything except the development environment, making the whole adventure, of course, a little pointless. Like, what is this, a Unix system without a C compiler? And anyway, I can now press play here and have the machine boot from its floppy. There's a good chance for Xenix at this stage committing suicide and simply misformatting the machine and borking everything. Here at boot we press enter. But we shall see will it happen or not. This is somewhat non-deterministic, a bit unexpected for an emulator, but so it is. FD64 and FD64 sometimes need to be changed to FD60 in each case, not 64, the rest staying the same. In particular, if you're using 1.5 megabyte media, I'm using 700 something, 700 whatever it was, kilobyte floppies. Now I have to insert the floppy N2 and press return. Unfortunately, I really don't remember where I got Xenix 2.3.1 with the development set from. And Xenix is so user-friendly, half an hour with Xenix and you know why Linux took over. Allegedly it was the by far most popular Unix of the 80s by number of installs. Yet still, I mean, it has really its edges and corners. We're picking one for American. Do I wish to continue? Yes. And here already you see what I mean, or soon will see. Sometimes it gives you no indicator at all of what it is doing. In reality, that must have been a noisy affair because you heard the drive spinning and doing things, but in an absolutely silent emulator, you're hoping for any icon to blink to give you any indication of life. What I now did is display the current disk parameters, 925, 717, so that you see that Xenix really did pick up on that. We're not going to modify here anything, we're just going to say Q to quit. We're just accepting them. We are going to use the entire disk for Xenix. I just love to set the partition active too. It's like a force of habit, not so much necessary here because it's written active anyway, but I just show it as a step as it is normally something necessary. Then let's do Q for getting out of this. This is also a bit non-intuitive. Like, what Q? I mean, I want to continue installing it, right? Here we're just pressing Q to quit because we don't really care about the bad Tracks table, we're just pressing return for the recommended value of 15. We'll never have a bad track, but it doesn't matter. The swap space allocation, press just enter here, because when you start to get funky with the measurements, I managed to bork an installation due to that. I don't even know why. Do you want a separate U file system? No, we do not want a separate user file system. To not run into these issues of one partition being full, another one being empty, and besides later installation things prefer that you have like one root file system and that they don't need to deal with multiple partitions. So it's actually better to have one later on. Block by block control we do not need, and now it's making the file systems without as much as an indication, you know. I mean, even things like early Windows and DOS and whatnot were showing you some form of progress indicator, what it is doing. Here, making file systems and nothing more. And you just see here that the floppy disk indicator is somewhat moving, and yeah, that's it, that's all. And that takes a good while. Here the hard disk sprang to life for a moment, which finally gives us the chance to change floppies. It is telling us to do this in a specific sequence which just never ever works. And so I'm just doing it right now, changing back to the N1 disk and pressing a key to reboot. Pressed enter. Haha, what key? Boot, enter. This is the moment where it may fail. This is the moment where, already in multiple installs, it simply decided to die. But it didn't. If it does, then close the emulator, delete the hard disk, and restart. It will in particular die if you forget to switch from N2 to N1 and reboot it, and it starts to boot its hard disk, and even if you then later insert the floppy and try things again, it will already have borked its file system. I love it. Okay, our little serial numbers. That's gonna be so LTD 000825, enter, and YLWBRZAN, enter. Okay. Should have hopefully worked. After you see the message, normal system shutdown, open the floppy door and remove the floppy disk. That we do, so it does not boot once again from it. Now we are truly ejecting it. Pressing enter to reboot. We should be now greeted by a disk installed Xenix, here pressing enter, and it starts with HD40 Xenix. You can even see up here that it picked up the cylinders, heads and sectors just as we said, and now it is demanding that we continue giving it floppies, feeding it with floppies. Alright, so existing image N3. Where was this? Yeah, here we were. N3, please.
return. And now it will be asking us for floppies in order to install an absolutely minimal system, which when you try it out is going to be, boy, is this going to be frustrating. And I believe that might even be the origin of the lore. Who knows whether VI is installed on your system, because the VI editor is optional. We will later see how we get to it. And you are left by default with ed. You do not even have the more pager. You are having just PG. So after you go through these things, you're going to have such a system that you are going to be just desperate. But there is a way later on with the command custom in order to customize Xenix. This command is wonderful fun. You are able to extend the system if you manage to force it to read your floppy disk, and it will do its best not to. Like, the fights between Custom and me yesterday night were absolutely epic. And how I was trying to like force it through all sorts of floppy disk formats until finally I got some which worked, and so on and so forth. Okay, continuing again to feed it and feed it. B2. Where was it? Here. See, I have a bit of a messy set. My installation is 720 kilobyte floppies, but my development set are 1.41 megabyte ones. Like we all know, these sizes are incorrect, that it should be maybe 1.39 megabyte or something, but anyway, so here we are having then floppy by floppy the approach towards a minimal system. On the plus side, I must admit that having a minimal system might make sense if you just want to run something on Xenix. You have some specific application. I heard that it has been used in a lot of industrial settings, and that you don't actually need or want a complete operating system with all sorts of things, and are just happy enough to have a minimal system working on which apps will work, and that's it. A password for the account root. You can press twice enter and give it just an empty password. I'm not even sure that this already use etc shadow, or is everything just in etc password? But having come so far is already good news. Am I in North America? I'm not. What is the abbreviation of your standard time zone? Now it starts to cheat and like trick you. If you get such a question by Linux, it is because Linux knows about CET. Here, you could write Mickey Mouse essentially, as long as you keep within the characters. And then it is asking you, how many hours west of GMT are you? I'm going to make a -1. I'm not west of GMT. And forget about daylight savings time, please. My date will never be correct anyway. Like, if you knew about CET, you wouldn't be asking me whether it's west or east of GMT, right? Now comes a very interesting point. I advise you to say continue installation, as its capricious floppy drive will now still accept floppy disks. Later on, I have had sometimes great difficulties to install the disk sets from the working Xenix system, but during installation it seems to be somewhat more lenient. So better select 2 to continue the installation. And now it is going to ask us, what do I want to install? Things on the operating system. We may do that, but we may do that later too. Though we might even do it now with regard to a thing. I haven't done that yet, and that might be actually better to do now. I'm pressing 1, operating system. It is then asking you always for the volume X1. Apparently this is where it is keeping its catalog of files, what is where. Open. And now I'm pressing return. And when we see the catalog, there will be one forbidden package, which if you install it, likely due to whatever media defect we have there, is simply destroying your entire system. Like, you do that, and your system gets nuked. I'll show you. So we press 1 to see what is available. And you see here what we haven't installed yet. So here in X, you're getting the VI editor. And I would like to have the packages right now X and terminf and let's keep it at that. There are a lot of other things we will want later, but the forbidden package is mail. If you try to install mail, it destroys your hard disk. Everything else can be installed. I just didn't go for link. This is a link kit to create new device drivers for Xenix, and very frankly, I'm not seeing myself doing that at all. So you can, however, specify multiple sets, just like I did here with X and terminf. And terminf might be advisable to have, as we shall be having the development set. So again, it is asking for X1, which is already inside. I'm just pressing enter. And then it is going to ask us for the respective floppies to be switched. One interesting thing, it is grouping them. So if you install everything or nearly everything, then it will be asking you just for floppy by floppy, but it will not ask you one and the same floppy twice. While if you first install one thing, then return to the menu, then install the other thing, you will be disk jockeying. Then it will be like asking you for each thing its own set of floppies and will not be able to group it. So it makes a bit of sense to, you know, give it the things at once. It is asking now for X2. This is the extended set, and this is how you're making use of it. It's interesting that mail is not permitted or not working, or anyway damaged and crappy. However, UUCP is working, and I mean, I'm actually more interested in CU. Okay, X3. I forgot another thing I wanted, because I want to show you also how things are working with DOS. We will need to be installing also this DOS thing up there, but we will do that in a second. Help is also a very funny thing, because it does not actually install MAN pages. You better obtain the System Administrator's Guide, the Xenix System Administrator's Guide, and all sorts of copies all over the internet with all sorts of nuances of the device names. I do want the term info be initialize now. This is going to take a bit of a moment, and I think I best pause you because this is going to take like 5 to 10 minutes, something like that. Yay! It did it, and returned us again to this menu where I can again press 1 to install one or more packages. Just notice now it is showing yes for the ones we installed, and I would like to have also DOS. That's an exceedingly important package because that gives you the possibility to read from and write to DOS floppy images. So it demands X3. Let me get that. In the past, on emulators, I have been sometimes able to simply supply a tar archive of nearly arbitrary size and just have it be read as a floppy image. But maybe because emulators became more precise, that trick does not seem to work anymore, and despite all of my efforts, yesterday I could not make Xenix work with tar files as if they were raw disk images. It was just all the time insisting that the geometry is wrong, or that it's not reacting to commands and whatnot. It was a nightmare. So you need the DOS set because it is going to give you commands in user bins starting with DOS, such as DOS-CP for copying or DOS-dir for reading. And 6 you say, right? And with these, you can then transfer files to and from virtual floppy images of DOS format. 1.44 megabyte images work just fine, like the first floppy drive here. And that gives you a little bit of flexibility of entering things into the system and, you know, just using it interoperably with the outer world. I'm now going to say Q to quit. We are fine with the operating system. And we can look at the current disk usage. You will be surprised. I told you we got, you know, a 50 megabyte disk, and what do we have? 8% used, despite me installing now additional things. So Xenix truly is small. I'm now going to say Q to get out of here. No. Ah. Okay. Didn't install my development set. Now that's gonna be adventurous. Let's see, can I or can I not? Ah, this is painful. Any key to reboot? You know, it's like this. It's all the time full of some pitfalls. Enter for HD40 Xenix. Control D. That's funny because if you just press enter, it's going to get you into some weird single user mode. New time. No, it's 1990. I'm fine with that. And then root. Notice this funny thing that it is using an exclamation mark. Nowadays you're having the @ symbol, right? But at the times of UUCP, things were transferred across simply a different system. And now we can use the custom command in order to have it install, hopefully, our development set. I'll already put D1 image into the drive, hoping that custom might just pick it up without whining all that much. Super intuitive, right? Like, that is so intuitive how to install something. It's not called package or install or program. No, it's called custom. It's like the last thing I would have guessed. And yes, I want a development system too. Yes, I have D1 in the drive. Yeah, it's starting to, forgive me, to bitch. This is mega frustrating. It's always doing that. And now, no matter how many times you now press enter, it will not work and it will not accept it. And I hate it. Yeah, Q to quit. And you really may be quite stuck here, and this may become a real fight. And you know, I should have maybe selected something else instead of customizing the operating system first. Maybe I should have first installed my development system. Now let's look at the floppy drives, the virtual markers for floppy disk devices, or even FD or RFD. These are just like, is it the cooked or the raw device? Normally one wouldn't want to see this, right? But here we are. And I will now be trying to, yeah, maybe first to guide you a little bit through what is what with these devices. So let me see again. Yeah, these ones starting with 0, these are all your first floppy drive. These ones starting with 1 are all your second floppy drive. This 48 thing is a 720 kilobyte floppy, and this 96 thing is a 1.44 megabyte floppy. This, however, if it is 96DS9, yeah, 96DS9 is the 720 megabyte floppy. These ones, 96DS15 is a 2400 kilobyte floppy, and these 135 ones, they are really for 200 for these double size floppies. Like this DS18 is a 2880 kilobyte floppy. What we are interested is this 096. It turned out yesterday that custom with the M parameter to select the device and dev RFD 096 would in some exceptional case permit me to access the floppy. I'm going to say the development system, I'm going to say enter, and if it doesn't work, then maybe I will have to try the whole thing in Qemu, where likely it will not work again. Yeah, great. And then I may have to reinstall entirely, and then Edge of Tomorrow style, I'll greet you back to where we were. So this is super stupid, right? Like now we're having a small Xenix system which is unable to read its floppies. Wonderful, wonderful. Totally not super frustrating or something. Shutdown 0 means just do it right now. Yeah, terminate. This takes its sweet time. If you think that it is now over and you turn it off, the next time it is going to be starting with complaints. With complaints concerning disk unmounting and file system cleanness and so on. This is what you need to wait for. It will now very soon display its final message, and now we can close it. Do I want to exit 86 box? You bet. Okay, now let me find, first let's clear, and now let me try to find a usable, halfway usable Qemu command I had. So, Qemu system 386 with 8 megabytes is able to work on our hard disk image with format raw, machine ISA PC, CPU 486, PC BIOS, 1 CPU, 1 core. Now, this is a DOS floppy. We don't need that. We need our Xenix 2.3.1 D1 image. Index 0, so this is for the first floppy drive, it's index 0. For the second one, it is index 1. This is how it knows which is which. And we want it to boot C. And now we pray to God that when we press enter and it somehow boots here, Control D, that it will, it suddenly became like 34 years into the future, that it will now be perhaps able to read its floppy drive. Truly, I do hate it though. mdev FD096. Let's try not with the cooked device, not with the raw device, but with the cooked device, the development set. Will it be able to read it now or not? Yeah, you see. And this sort of funny little game we were having yesterday all the time. And it is just mega frustrating. So, you know, I'll try to fight a bit with the floppy devices now. If I figure it out, you will see. If I don't, you will see as well, because I will be greeting you at the end of a new install where things, hopefully, are not so ridiculous. Hallelujah, it seems to be working. On custom with a device of FD196, so a somewhat underspecified second floppy drive, the command with which I started everything is this Qemu system i386 monstrosity, where I'm first telling the hard disk and then putting in each floppy drive a development image. The 3.5-inch one not, but the 5.25-inch one in the second floppy drive worked. I tell you, this is completely illogical. There's no reason why this should work, but it does. Install one or more packages. Yes, I want all. I want all the development set. Yes, I have this. Now it wants D2. Control-Alt-2 gives us the Qemu monitor, where we can say change floppy 1, because this is the second floppy drive, floppy 0 being the first one, to Xenix 2.3.1 slash 5.25 slash D2 image. Pressing enter, changed it. Control-Alt-1, it always picks up this one, so you need to delete it, backspacing it, pressing enter. And you know, I'm now just going to do this. I'll give you a break, and then you shall see the results. Very good. It seems that it did take the development set, and now I'll just need to register it a little bit. SCO 005715 and AXTNKKO. Oh, wonderful! Use term cap curses as defaults or term info curses as default. I will take one because it's the first option. I remember there was a difference, but I don't remember which. And last time I tried to do something. Ah, yeah, right. It just... I cannot now enter the installation volume N5 because I don't have a 5.25 Xenix installation set. And now custom is expecting me to give a drive of the same, a floppy of the same format as the previous ones. So there's no chance for me to do this. Right, so I'll have to press Q to return to the main menu. And I can say install one or more packages. Just see how this is going to look like now. Weird. Okay. Just anyway, Q to return to the menu, Q to quit. And do I have a C compiler? I do. So now I actually have installed the development set. Just don't have yet this term cap term info business solved. But I can go ahead and do that too by saying custom dev. I actually shouldn't say anything. just dev fd096. So first floppy drive now, please, not the second one. And do I want to do things in the operating system? Yes, the operating system. Now it demands that I insert x1. So be it. Change to here x1 image. Yeah, and the same. You see, this show was happening all the time. And if one gets the correct device, this is going to work. But I got at least the development set. Maybe that, if one is unnerved, is enough. Maybe one can live with ed as editor and PG as pager, because we do not yet even have more, not to speak of less. But such is life. Okay, I think I'm going to quit. I think this demonstrates well enough how things are going if you try to install Xenix, and I think it also demonstrates well enough the fights one has to survive in order to get anything onto that system. Important to get would have been, however, the DOS floppy support thingy. I might continue to try that, but no promises. Maybe that's it. Maybe this is the end of our little installation experience. I am back in Qemu. I just set custom, and it seems to be now possible to install operating system parts. I picked to install in particular the DOS utilities, as these are most important for the outer world. And just for the sake of completeness, I think that it may be having an effect with which disk you are starting the system. So I am saying here that it is starting already with the x1 image, of which I know that it will be requesting, so that whatever is set up in the simulated hardware already corresponds to the image I need. And for some reason, just custom without device allowed me to continue the process. It's now asking me simply for the floppies, and I can now say N6 as required, you know. There's a chance that I actually got my DOS. I did. And now I can install one or more packages and so on and so forth. But in general terms, I managed to win the fight for the floppy installation. Now, let's quit. Well, let's do something funnier. Please permit me to completely destroy this system. I'll press 1, install one or more packages. I'm going to say mail, the forbidden package, the one which crashes everything. And pressing enter tells me I shall insert x3. Sure, no problem. Now x4. Sure. Now x7. N6. How on earth did that work? Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Because before that, when I was doing this, I was getting into a kernel panic, and afterwards Xenix refused to boot. But in all fairness, I was doing that on the 86 box emulator. In other words, maybe that's the advice, ladies and gentlemen. Whatever you are installing, do that in Qemu. Yeah, and so on and so forth, and that is how one can install packages. You know, frankly, given that I managed to install mail, I might now install a couple of other things too. One or more packages, like basically a lot of those that I might be interested in. So see you around. I would like to also demonstrate to you how the reading from a DOS floppy looks like. Now, having installed everything, let's see how much disk space has been occupied. We are at a meager 31% after installing the development set and all parts of the operating system. Let me show you some of the luxury we acquired. Wow, I can clear that screen. Something I couldn't do before. Now, let us change the floppy. This is in Qemu, but you could change the floppy, of course, in 86 box. Just here things are a million times faster. So Ctrl-Alt-2. Change floppy 0 into DOSX1 image under the directory X. There's something funny here which I'm having for you, namely XLISP. A long time ago I did compile XLISP, a famous 1980s Lisp, for Xenix, and I'm intending to port it over here by, for instance, getting it like that, DOS dir, I believe. Do we see the parts of the tar archive? I created a tar archive and I split it into several parts which we will need to all assemble like the Horcruxes in Harry Potter, and in the end create our little Lispy Voldemort. Or what was this working like? So DOS copy a : no slashes, just x1 into root x1. Now let's change the floppy and return, and let's do the same game. There's no history, by the way. I can't just press the up arrow and get things. This is not working that way. Okay, third one. This is, by the way, much faster than on 86 box, which really insists on doing things with the original speed. And the final one, DOS CPA X4 to X4. All right. Now let's make a directory for this. XLISP. Copy all the X's into XLISP. Actually remove all the X's. And let's get into XLISP. Now cut x1, x2, x3, x4 into x star. Remove all the x's. So this is what we're now having. And now tar. You know, somebody told me it's not compressed, but somebody told me how to remember that this is an extraction and decompression. Extract the fucking files. But this is not a compressed archive, so it's just like that. And then when I went to cdx lisp 21g sources, I believe here should be something called xlisp.bin, and it is. Copy xlisp.bin to user bin xlisp, go back to the top and simply fire it up. And you see, ladies and gentlemen, that is how we do not only have a C compiler, which could in fact compile all this theater, because this is what I did in the past, but we even have now this already nicely prepared Unix system, Lisp system. So let's, I don't know, multiply something with something else. Bah! This is pretty cool, you'll have to admit. So having XLISP on the system is of course very pleasant. And with that, I have demonstrated to you now the battle that it is to install and operate Xenix.
So that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Or isn't it? We have not yet tried neither our beautiful VI nor our C compiler. So let us create what must be created. Where are you? So shift insert stdio.h int main. You have to code this in the old C standard, evidently, but for these purposes there will be no difference. Hello. The keyboard is a challenge for me. I have sausage fingers. And let's give it the new line. Hello. Yeah, we're so civilized. And that way. And now double escape WQ. So we have written our C file. And now cc hi.c. Did I just write insert instead of include? Indeed I did. Incredible. Oh my god. My shame shall be forever known in the annals of history. Okay. And yes, we are having a working C compiler. How big is everything? So, ooh. I mean, it did turn it into a like 100 kilobyte file, so that's quite something. But yeah, if you follow these steps, you can have a C compiler operational. That's now really it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for having joined today. Hope to greet you here soon again. If not subscribers yet, please consider joining our nerdy and geeky and friendly club. Hope to see you here soon again. Thank you for watching. And from me, goodbye.